away from anybody, that it's not a problem. So, you know, people come for dinner and they hang out, and it's very nice. I'm there Fridays and Saturdays.
That's the fife and drum in Kent, Connecticut.
In Kent, Connecticut.
Well, which one do you play, the fife or the drum?
You know, it's funny. Well, when we get the trio back together, then I'll have the fifer and the drummer.
There you go.
But right now I'm the piano player.
Don't shoot Larry.
Don't shoot the piano player. But yeah, great place. That's a family-run restaurant. It was started by Alyssa's father, who was a terrific pianist. So I've known them for, you know, decades, since before I moved to New York. Go over there and listen to him play and go like, okay, that's what it's like to be a, you know, professional musician, you know, full-time professional musician.
So what kind of music did you, when you were growing up, what kind of music did you listen to? Was it always jazz, or did you grow into jazz, or evolve into jazz, or whatever you want to term it?
I heard jazz a couple of times when I was younger, but I didn't really hear it until, you know, I was in my late teens. And I hadn't been playing a lot of music through my teens, but I had lessons as a kid thanks to my mom.
Piano lessons.
Piano lessons. You know, she had all of us take piano lessons. Good teacher in Poughkeepsie, and got a solid foundation. So when I started hearing jazz and wanted to get back into playing the piano, and decided it was something I really wanted to do, you know, I had that foundation, and it was just a matter of lots of practice.
And this was when you were in your teens?
My late teens.
And here we are 10 years later.
Yeah.
And you're still playing?
I'm still playing, you know.
Well, very good. So, but was there any other music genre besides jazz that you were interested in at that time? I'm just curious if it evolved into jazz, or you just got tuned into it,
I think,
like a light switch, or?
Well, you know, I mean, I played a little guitar, and I played some electric bass, and get together and jam with guys, you know, but it wasn't jazz. It was like, you know, pop bands of the day, and somebody gave me a recording of John Coltrane, and that was the light switch that went on.
John Coltrane?
Yeah.
Which album do you remember?
Yeah, like My Favorite Things and Chim Chim Cheree, early 60s. Yeah, and I heard that, and I just was like completely blown away. There's just so much depth and so much, you know, I just want to be part of that. I want to, you know, I didn't know people could communicate those kinds of feelings in music. I just hadn't been exposed to it, you know. And I thought, wow, this is, if I could get a tiny fraction of that, that's what I got to try to do.
And you succeeded.
Yeah, a fraction, tiny fraction.
Well, you succeeded.
Yeah.
I just curious, because like any other kind of music genre, it has evolved so much from, like what I know, jazz, like the Glenn Miller and World War II era jazz musicians, how it evolved from them. Do you teach that in your classes in terms of theory? Well, the evolution of the art form?
A little bit, yeah. I think the theory side of that evolution comes out more in the piano lessons, where you're really talking about the application of it. But you know, in terms of jazz history, the evolution of the art form that's what it's all about. You know, and you know, the interesting thing about jazz, you talk about it in that context, is it's a really fascinating way to look at American history, because when you look at the evolution of an art form that is American, I mean, it really reflects American values and American culture in a really incredible way. And you start to look at, okay, decade by decade, what was going on, and what was the music that was being played as all of that historical context was.
Now, how did it come out through music?
How did it come out through music?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how far back would you say it goes, just from an educational point of view? How far back would you say the origins of the genre go?
Well, yeah, I mean, all the way to the beginning of when African Americans came here as slaves,
Mm-hmm.
there was music coming here with an African cultural point of view, and
Mm-hmm.
so you can trace it all the way back. Some of the earliest recordings that were made were jazz recordings
Mm-hmm.
in the late 19 teens. So we can trace really clearly the evolution of jazz from that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can look back at things like ragtime, which happened in the late 1880s and 1890s, was big. And we can see that sometime between there, where there was a lot of published sheet music, and you could kind of see where those
Scott
composers,
Joplin,
like Scott Joplin in
right,
that era.
ragtime era.
Yeah, and then you can see that had an influence on, and was, you know, a part of a trend as music was developing that emerged, you know, in the recorded era as jazz. And then you can also look at things like the blues, the roots of the blues as influencing jazz, and you can trace a big influence came from the islands, particularly from Cuba, into the southern ports of the United States,
Mm-hmm.
bringing rhythm, bringing
As a
drums.
hybrid or as, you know, a direct line?
As a direct line.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, because, you know, drumming was, and music in general was very sophisticated in Cuba and some of the other islands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very complete.
Well, even
art
today, some of the
forms.
rhythms are very sophisticated.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Even like a salsa beat with syncopation of other instruments,
yeah, yeah,
it lends itself to a certain rhythm that's
Yeah.
unique in its own sense.
yeah, yeah. And
So-
there's, you know, jazz has all kinds of influences. I mean, there's influence, you can hear influences from different, you know, European immigrant groups, and you can, you know, kind of get a sense of, again, like I say, it's a really American art form because it's like a melting pot music, and it continues to be a melting pot music. Now it's everywhere in the world, and it's like, somebody used this analogy to me. It's like an octopus, you know. It's got 8 arms, you know. It just reaches out and takes whatever and brings it in and uses it to create another subgenre or something. So we've got 100 years of recorded jazz, and the evolution is incredible. I mean, when people say, "Oh, I like jazz," or "I don't like jazz," I go like, well, exactly what are you talking about? There's like 101 styles that you could,
Right.
or, you know, different parts of the tree of the music.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're exposed to just one of them, you might or might not be particularly impressed with it. You
Right,
know?
right.
But if you check them all out, guarantee there's something.
So
that's-
it's varied enough. Yeah.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes it never a dull moment, right?
Never a dull moment.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you find yourself gravitating to a certain style in jazz, or do you feel you're open to any of the spectrum of jazz?
Well, you know, you'll appreciate this as a musician. I mean, it's funny, but we you know, like you don't just like pick a style off a tree, right? You kind of, you do have something to say when you play music, otherwise you wouldn't play. So it does find, you know, you find a way to express yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mhm.
And yeah, I could say there's a certain types of styles of jazz, but it doesn't mean I'm closed or don't listen to the other ones.